find your retirement dream and make it come true? Here to talk with me about that today is Erin Wood, Senior Vice President of Financial Planning and Advanced Solutions from Carson Group. Erin, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me, Alyssa.
What do you find people's usual attitudes towards retiring is?
Sure. So typically, what I would say is people come in one of two ways. People either come in, they're really excited and they have an idea of what they want to do, or the second category is the category of retirement to them means exiting their job, not necessarily going to something. I will say for most of those clients in that second category, retirement tends to be a harder transition for them and maybe is not living up to expectations because they didn't really have an expectation.
Yeah, and what are some myths and misconceptions that you about retirement that you wish to debunk?
Myths before people get to retirement. I think I hear quite a few myths of uh, different rumors they've heard or stories that they've heard. There's a lot of people who have myths about how Social Security works, when they should take Social Security. Those don't always equal up to what is true for that specific person. I also find a lot of misinformation and myths around Medicare and what it does cover or does not cover. Do you need supplement plans or not need supplement plans? Those tend to be big areas that hit everyone. There's also some myths I think people have that retirement is automatically 65 or 66 years old because that is what their Social Security date is. That does not mean that that is the right date for a specific person to be taking retirement. Their plans or their goals could be completely different than their next door neighbors, and so following that date is not always right. The other myth that comes with that is that retirement means you don't work. Retirement doesn't mean that for everyone. For many people, retirement actually means that they're going to continue to work part-time. They are maybe going to start a second business. One of the really cool facts that's come out the last few years is that the newest or the highest percentage of small businesses that have been started by those who are retired. And so that is a new trend in retirement that many people are now starting their own businesses or careers that they've always wanted. Once we get into retirement, I think again there's some myths of how we've seen maybe our grandparents retired or how their parents retired, and individuals frequently will look at those situations and retirement is no longer sitting on the front porch with a rocker. That is not the retirement that individuals are living today. Today, individuals are living very full retirements that are full of travel. They're full of new experiences. Individuals who are continuing to learn and grow. Lots of people volunteering their time or starting new hobbies or taking up old hobbies they haven't had time for. And so many people's retirements are very full these days. It is not a retirement of sitting around with relaxation.
Yeah, and do you know any perhaps companies or what jobs have perhaps other retirees have taken part-time?
This is a great question to ask, and I think one of the things I encourage my clients to do is ask the question of where they have interest in, because many times what I find is people who are working part-time sometimes are doing it because they have an income need, and that income allows them to maybe retire earlier or have a different lifestyle. But lots of times people are taking part-time jobs that are equaling up to somewhere where they have an interest. And so, if someone's interested or loves to golf, then maybe they take a part-time job working at a golf course. It gives them some benefits. They get some, tee times. They get some reduced rates. I've had people who've worked at craft stores. I've had people who really like baking, and that's been a hobby of theirs, and they've gone to work at cake factories. One of the people I've worked with really loves making cakes, but she didn't want to work full time, and so she found a niche that her specialty is she only makes cakes that are like birth surprise. So, like, what is the gender of your baby? She makes those surprise cakes so people can find out what the gender of their baby is. So that is something I encourage people to do. Work is not work when you're doing something you really love and enjoy, especially if you're doing it on a part-time basis.
Yeah, and how could retirement become perhaps easily isolating for people?
This is unfortunately such a real concern, and I've seen it so many times in the 20 years I've been working with clients. People who don't naturally, we all have a tendency, maybe we're more extroverted, maybe we're more introverted, but people who don't have something they're retiring to and don't have activities or hobbies, especially if they are widowed or single, can become very isolated. People don't realize the micro interactions that we have on a daily basis. Whether it's, you come into the office and you ask someone how their weekend was, or they show you the pictures of their new grandchild or their recent vacation, or just even going to the grocery store where someone asks you, oh, what do you have planned this weekend? Doesn't even have to be a super deep, but those micro interactions that we have with society tend to bring us a lot of enjoyment and happiness as individuals. And so if you retire and you are no longer having those micro interactions, or you're purposely not making sure that you're going out and interacting, it can be incredibly isolating. All of those conversations you used to have, whether it was just going to lunch or a happy hour with coworkers, have disappeared. And it now puts you in a position where you could be very, very lonely. And this happens a lot, especially to seniors after they've been widowed, where maybe they've had a relationship where, of course, they've been in a couple for a long time, and now people don't know how to continue on as a single individual. And so really finding those ways, whether it's joining a book club or whatever it is you might enjoy, even if you're an introvert, book clubs are a great way to talk about something that a lot of introverts really like to do. And so finding those ways to take part and still have interactions and micro interactions brings a huge amount of happiness to retirees' lives.
And how do you get your clients excited to retire?
So I've been doing an exercise with my clients for many years. I call it the postcard exercise. It is actually a stack of random postcards. It's actually right here. I keep it really close. You can actually see them. So it is a stack of just random postcards that have all sorts of pictures. Oh, that's actually my picture. That was really crazy. But it has just random pictures in it that people can choose. And so I ask individuals to go through and pick 5 cards that represent what they want their future to look like. Future is a word that's great because it's a word that means something different to other people. Future could be 5 years, could be 10 years. It's whatever we see it. But when we start talking about retirement and what do you want your future to look like, people will pull out 5 cards that they identify with. The interesting thing about this is I have had clients choose the same card and they have completely different stories of why they chose that card. And so I will ask them, like, what does this picture mean to you? What are you looking for? And sometimes I get stories of, I'm looking for, a second house, or we're looking to travel. We're looking for a life of adventure. We want to build our dream house. For me, the picture I said, oh, that's actually one of my pictures. That picture was one that really shocked me when I picked it out, because I picked it out when my daughter was only 3 years old. And I picked it out, and it's a picture of a little girl running through a field holding a butterfly net. But I didn't pick it out because of my own daughter. I actually picked it out because it was the first time I realized I have a goal in my life that I want to be a substantial impact on my grandchildren's lives. Well, I don't even have grandchildren. Like, I'm so far from grandchildren with a 3-year-old daughter. But it was the first time that it triggered for me that that is a really important goal of mine. And if, in fact, I want to be a significant impact on my grandchildren's life, then that means I have to be present. That means I have to be close to where they are. I want to go to grandparents' days and whatever else, t-ball and ballet and all those things. Well, I had always planned my retirement to be one of adventure. I was going to do a lot of travel. My husband and I were going to spend time in a motorhome and travel the United States and Canada. Well, this now means we need to have a home base wherever our grandkids may end up, which was not something that I had planned on. And so that's a great example of how these pictures can really pull out a value or something of importance that we don't always recognize when we're just talking about when do you want to retire, how much money do you need. That doesn't come out in those conversations, but when you start asking them to pull pictures, that represent what they want their future to look like, you can get a completely different story. I've been able to help people build their dream homes. I've been able to help people start businesses. I've been able to help a couple who took a trip around the world for a whole year. That was their goal, is to spend a year traveling the whole globe. Those are things you can't always get just from a simple question, and it brings a lot of excitement when someone can really connect with that picture and they can see themselves doing that and why it's important to them.
Yeah, and why is it important to have retirees make their later in lives dreams come true?
So, people retiring today have a long life expectancy still left. And when we're working from, our early 20s generally until our mid 60s, and we're looking at that we might have 20, 30 years of retirement, that's a long time to be looking at what's next for us. I think about what's next in the next 10 years of my life, and I have so many things I want to do and accomplish. And that is the same for retirees, and that had not always been the case. Historically, lots of people retired at 65, and their life expectancy wasn't much longer than that, and retirement really was a point of relaxation. But now when you're talking 20 or 30 years, that could be a second career. That could be going back to college and learning something completely different. And so it gives people that ability to really look at that second term of their life and maybe make some different changes or choices than they would have made when you're choosing a university at 18 years old or a college major. You don't always know what you want to be when you're 50 or 60. And lots of times people now are going into that second phase of their life with a much clearer vision of what they want to do, or their goals have changed and they want to do something completely different.
Yeah, and what are some ways that retirees can still maintain an active and social lifestyle?
So I have seen so many things clients have done over the years. I've had some people join groups where it is literally things like I said. It might be a golfing club. I've seen that for men or women. I've seen people who joined fishing clubs where they have different people they go out and they go fishing with, or hunting clubs, different social clubs. There is many across the whole country organizations that are made for community members to join, and these are generally specifically for people who are over 55 or 60 years old. And the local communities have everything from knitting to book clubs to bowling to bocce. There's so many different things people can get involved in. I've seen people join wine tasting clubs or bourbon tasting clubs. Anything that really you're fascinated with now, you can pretty much find a club or an organization that does this. Cards tends to be a big one. There are many people over the years who've joined card clubs or chess clubs. But anything of interest, there's even clubs out there where people join, and they're for people who have RVs. They can join RV clubs, and these people go to the same campgrounds at the same time. I've had individuals go on many trips where they are trips where they have someone who organizes the whole trip, but there might be 15, 20 people going on these trips, and they'll go every year to 2 years. And so it starts to really build connections with these individuals over time. One of the greatest things about social media is that if there's anything you're interested in at any time, you can get on and find local events and just really going out and trying something different. The ones who have the greatest success, again, are the ones who go try something they've always wanted to try. There's also a lot of individuals I have who spend their time volunteering, where maybe they have something that's really close to their heart. I've had someone who got really involved with rescues and started having dogs and puppies at their house where they were fostering them. They were never able to do that when they were working. They didn't have the time for it. And so finding those things that you've been putting off, there's always a group that you can join to spend your time doing more of it.
Yeah, and what advice would you give to people who just started saving for retirement?
So my biggest advice for individuals who just started is to keep going. One of the things I hear so often is I didn't start early enough, or I don't have enough. And because of that, people have a tendency to behaviorally not do anything. If your option is that you can only save 3%, but the financial plan or the advisor is telling you you need to be saving 6 or 10 or 15, and you're thinking you're so far away from that goal, people will choose to do nothing. And so just get started. That's always the best advice I can give someone, because as you get started, it gets easier to continue increasing those savings amounts, or it gets easier to go in and readjust the budget. But if we try to go from 0 to 100, that's a long amount of things we have to do, and it can be so overwhelming. If we just start with one thing at a time, get ourselves started, and then continually increasing those savings rate, increasing the budgeting. When you look at retirement or you look at your goal, there's always a couple options, and never losing sight of those options is important, because one of the options is you can delay. One of the options is maybe you go into retirement and you work part-time for so many years. Maybe you take on a higher risk, or maybe you take a lower income in retirement. It is not just one decision, it's a lever of decisions that you're going to pull. And some of them you might pull harder than others, but knowing that there's flexibility and knowing that you can work with someone to continue making changes and adjustments to get you to a goal that you're happy with is the important piece.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and now what advice would you give to people who will be retiring this year?
So this year, retirees have been hearing all sorts of stuff on the news. Of course, it is an election year, which election years tend to bring a lot of conversations around taxes, around what is inflation going to be, interest rates going to be, and it's very stressful. But my biggest recommendation to everyone is these cycles happen over and over again. And so what our retirees are going through this year is not unique to just them. This has happened 4 years before that, and 4 years before that, and will happen 4 years after them. But the biggest thing is to know, just like before you retire, you need to make changes to your goals. While you're in retirement, you will continue to make changes. And so you need to make changes around how much money you take. If you go into retirement and the market is down, well, then maybe you need to take less money out of your assets to make sure that those assets are going to have enough time to rebound and grow and last through your whole retirement. If you're at a point where interest rates are high, then you probably shouldn't go take out a loan for a brand new car. Maybe you hold on to your car a few more years and give interest rates some ability, some time to stabilize. Those are the biggest things, is just know that all of these situations are cycles. And if you work with an advisor and a planner and a CFP on an ongoing basis, they will help you adjust your withdrawals and your investments year over year to make sure you're taking advantage of whatever tax laws are in place, and to make your money last as long as it possibly can.
And when planning for retirement, should the plans of what to do in retirement come first, or should the financials for retirement be planned first?
So that is a really good question. And I don't know that you can do one without the other, truthfully. There's a lot of people who make plans for their retirement with only the money in mind. They've never taken into account what they really want to have happen. And if you're in a situation like that, that means that your retirement is going to be very much driven by, how much can you withdraw out of your accounts. That might not give you even close to the retirement dream that you had. The flip side of that is, you have a dream and you've never put the money to it, your dream might be really far out of the possibilities. And so really they do need to be done together, so that you can always be balancing them out. If someone has a really unrealistic dream, then it's important that I help them see how those numbers are going to play out for them, and that that's not possible. One of the things I've seen individuals who have not planned well enough, they retire, they've always had this dream of doing XYZ, and they just did it without any thought into how that was going to impact the retirement nest egg. And then they're a few years into retirement and realize they don't have enough money. Now they either need to severely cut back their life, or they need to go and find more income. Those are situations that you hopefully want to avoid by having those conversations earlier.
Hmm. Yes, and those are all my questions. Thank you so much.
Very good. Thank you, Alyssa.